I'm out here seeing things at the Mineral Spring Cemetery in Pawtucket. And it's kind of a rundown cemetery with no active caretakers that I can see in the middle of the city. But it's a pretty cool cemetery, and I'm just looking around first. You can see on the horizon a large factory complex that still has some stuff going on in it. But that is originally J.P. Coates, which is a company that had many factories all over New England and elsewhere, I think even in New York and whatnot. My grandfather worked at that particular factory, and they were also known for their soccer team. Back in the day, American soccer was pretty low-key, not well organized or anything. It was just a bunch of factory towns and factory teams, and they called them the Pawtucket Rangers. And they used to play against teams like Brooklyn and Fall River and New Bedford. It was a little regional league, I guess, and they had their own little championship. So we're talking in the 1910s, 20s, 30s. My grandfather would have been playing in the late 20s, early 30s, sometime after the Rangers won their championship. Otherwise, to the right of the factories, and there's many, many more factories in this town, or old factory buildings anyway. They're not so much factories anymore. But anyway, to the right of that is a new train center. Pawtucket's old train station is still standing, but it's in horrible disrepair, and it hasn't been used in a decade, maybe 20 years. So they've built this new so-called transit center, and finally Pawtucket is back on the map as far as the train goes. Pawtucket, of course, is the birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution. Samuel Slater put his mill on the river, and that established the Blackstone between Worcester and Providence as the major manufacturing in America in the 1790s. I want to say 1793 is when he established, something like that. So you can still see some of these old mill buildings. Here we're seeing the foundation of one. A lot of these things did tend to burn down in the 70s, 80s, 90s after they'd been in disrepair for so long. And otherwise, the survivors are all being converted to brew pubs and condos, housing, all that kind of thing. So Pawtucket has been in decline since World War II. It used to be an amazing industrial city, as you could imagine, with a great theater called the Leroy, which has been torn down. Still has a great library, it has a lot of great buildings, but it's not what it used to be. And so they're trying to reinvent themselves, but like any of these old industrial towns, its day has passed, and if it's ever going to have another boom, it's going to be wholly unrelated. And the baseball team just left not too long ago, the Pawtucket Red Sox. And then strangely, they decided to build another stadium on the water. So the Rhode Island Football Club, I think they're calling themselves the Tides. It's some kind of a minor league soccer. Here's a cool looking stone. I wonder who this is. Kind of isolated over here. Barnard Wallace, maybe, or Callahan. Barnard Callahan. Maybe age 27. Someone else, age 26. Michael Ward, age 32. Hard to see what this is down here. Lost their lives in 1829. I wonder how. Over something of BOA or POA, the Seekonk River, while on a party of leisure. Boat, not BOA, BOAT. I don't know why it's all capitals. Overturning of a boat in the Seekonk River. So these guys all died in some kind of drowning. And that's their memorial. Sure, that could be researched. we can see how this cemetery is just sort of plunked in the middle of all of these factories, derelict factories. Although, I mean, the windows are nice here. Even though some of them are boarded up, this is definitely being restored or in use already. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange location. And then, yeah, if we look in the other direction, there's just a lot of houses, some churches in the background. So downtown is to my left, to the east. But as you can see, when I talk about it being in disrepair, this is what I mean. I know there are some people who are actively trying to restore this place. So I'm sure they're doing what they can, but as you can imagine, Pawtucket not being a wealthy town anymore, I didn't have a lot of money for this stuff. So some of these stones have just been obliterated with time, like that. Otherwise, a lot of them are quite all right and not in worse condition than others I've seen in the area. Let's see what we have here. A little family plot. William Benoit, 1888 to 1945. Military guy, probably World War I. Jeremiah Arnold, a Mason. Memory of Sarah Pond. Some of these are quite worn. There's an interesting looking one here. Mary Goldsmith, wife of Samuel Goldsmith, who was born in Marblehead, 1770, and died in this place, being Pawtucket, 1822, with the urn and willow motif at the top. Some body shop there behind this section. Here we have some very worn stones by this nice kind of dead looking oak tree. Hard to say. Let's see, Mrs. Eliza Jenks. So this is a Jenks family plot over here. This, I think, this cemetery was a Jenks family land. Nathaniel Jenks died 1814. So this is all Jenks over here. So maybe these are some of the original graves. I'd been here once before, a long time ago. So I'm mainly looking for Samuel Slater, the city father, and I know he was on this side somewhere. So take a little digging here. Lachlan's, Hawkins. Quite worn, these stones. All the trees are dead. Charles P. Adams, 1830 to 1895. I don't think that's... It could be a cousin or something of the presidents, John Adams. There was a Charles Adams, but I don't think that's him. Could be. I don't think so, though. It's a fairly unassuming grave. Captain Levi Tower. Levi Tower, killed at the Battle of Bull Run, Virginia, 1861. Erected by Tower Posts, Rhode Island CAR. Civil, not sure what CAR stands for. So yeah, definitely some, here's Levi's actual grave. Oh no, that might be a son. 1885 to 1893. No, grandson. He died in Civil War. This is son of E.M. Doyle. So Levi wouldn't have been making any kids after 1861. There's more Jenks family plots to my right here. And I forget if it's the Jenks family He's one of the founders of the city. But I forget if it's him who has a kind of a farm homestead that can be visited. I want to say it's in Saugus, Mass. And there's some kind of industrial stuff there, like early industrial material. William Bagley, 1875, 75 years. This has been prominent. It's a pretty large stone. This is quite a cool stone behind it. There's a whole Bagley family plot here. Steel, it looks like. John Steel. It's very worn. Very worn. That could do a rubbing on that and get some data that I'm not getting just by looking at it here. But yeah, there's a Jenks Street in Providence, and this Jenks family is this is their land. That's how this cemetery started. There's a Cogshell. That's an old Rhode Island family name. Here we have a nice old plot here. Might be tough getting info, but let's see what's on the other side. Some more Adamses here from the 1800s. Enoch Adams. Enoch and Phoebe, dying in the late 1800s. It's a nice stone with an urn motif on it. Nice slate. Angelina Tompkins, 1827 she died. And actually several more of those over here. Amy, spelled A-M-E-Y, Amy Thomas, who died in Cumberland, 1824. That's the neighboring town, with the urn motif. Joseph Jenks, another Jenks family, died in his 81st year. Let's get a Daughters of the American Revolution plaque at the base. So, yeah, this could be a Revolutionary War vet, dying in 1821 as he was. He was born in 1740. So he would have been in his 30s during the Revolution, certainly. Sarah Jenks, certainly a Revolutionary War vet. Yeah, I wanted to get on the other side of these over here. Let's see. Some more flags. Huh. The Jewish stone. You don't see that too much. Jewish stone mixed in. As far as I know, unless because that has his hand shaking in the middle. Almost makes it look like something Masonic. Sabin Allen, 1801 to 1857. And it just says... it just says veteran. So with those kinds of life and death dates, well, I mean, he could have been an old Civil War vet. 1801. I'm not sure what he would be. 1801 to 57, just a veteran. Maybe he never was in declared wartime because he's too young for the War of 1812. But this is a fascinating looking stone here. Polycrode or croad. A lot of iron in that stone. It's very rusty looking. From early life, she was a sincere and hearty friend to Christ and his cause. And for many years, she was a much respected member of the Baptist Church in Warren, Rhode Island. Something, it may be said she it's tough as it gets to the bottom. Savior and all things. It's religious stuff. Not really. The year is obscured. Maybe it's on the bottom. But an interesting stone. Definitely looks different than the others around it. Looks like a Brown, maybe Nathaniel Brown here. Very worn down. Very eroded. Some more Jenks family members here. George Nicholas Jr. Anne Francis has an interesting little carving on the top of the stone here. Flower. John and Anne Phillips, 1825. Jerusha Nicholas, died in 1811. Wife of George. An amiable wife, a tender mother, and a worthy member of the Baptist Church in Pawtucket. With pious composure, she sustained a long and distressing illness and died with the joyful hope of a better resurrection. Interesting. Yeah, some interesting stones over here. A few dog walkers. Not my first dog walker I'm seeing here. Lemuel Sweetland. With a kind of lamp motif at the top. 1805. Well, I'm really combing this place, and still haven't found Samuel Slater, so we got a ways to go. Richard Scott, 1864. Jeremiah Scott, 1825. Again, these kind of magic lamp, urn-looking things, urn and willow motif again on the top of this one. It's a little worn. More of the Scott family. Susanna Scott has this nice 19th century font on there. Very nice. Florida Coleman, daughter of Clements, 1819. And there is Warner Clements. Got some lichen going on there. Now, some of these are just completely subsumed by the earth. I mean, look at this one over here. Actually still has a bit of a carving on it, but it's totally uprooted by this tree. There's stuff on there, but it's a bit too much of an angle for me to extract that. I have to come with a pair of scissors and trim that grass. Some nice small ones. Here's an unusual motif on the top here, this kind of swirl. Timothy, child's grave. And this one is kind of a wheel. Daniel Goodhue, 1821. Elizabeth. Say Goodhue, Goodhue. And another one with the wheel. Let's see what this one is here. A couple of interesting ones here. Lydia, wife of Earl Pitcher. Quite a, again, bit of a rust color, very faint willow carving on there. But nice. More of an etching almost. We get some veterans. Eliza Gage. Hannah Gage. And here, Polly Miller. Aaron Miller, wife of Aaron Miller. 1820s again. Rhoda. Rhoda, in memory of Rhoda, daughter of Ichabod Jenks. More Jenks family. Another Jenks family plot. Sons of the American Revolution. Ichabod himself, Ichabod Jenks, Esquire, died in 1863, age 71. That doesn't sound like a Revolutionary War vet. That sounds like a Civil War vet, an old Civil War vet. All Jenks again. This is not Slater. I thought I'd check it, but it's Hawes and Barrows. Barrows. Well, Slater's being elusive. I think this might be him over here. Let's see. It's quite a hazy day today. Foggy, quite warm for late April. Hazy and humid. And sure enough, this is Samuel Slater. So we found the father of the American Industrial Revolution, born in England. The whole Slater family plot here. And it is quite close to the entrance. They have this little brick house with fake painted windows on it, and that's the entrance right there. And so if you're coming in immediately on the right, you'll see the Slater family stone. And where Samuel is exactly, I'm not sure. Probably one of these, I don't know what you call these things, these coverings. But it is seriously worn. So if that's Samuel Slater's grave, it is in need of updating, because that's worn away to the point of unreadability. But I think I do see it here. It says in memory of Samuel Slater. It's right here. But could also say Junior at the end of that. It's also quite worn. Here we see son of Samuel something Slater, Hannah, died 1826. Another son of Samuel there. So he was born in a small village in England. You can look that up. That is, you can still see his house that he grew up in England. It's, it's been refurbed, but that all still exists. There's nothing else on the other side of the stone. So I'm guessing that taller one here is Samuel, or one of these end cap ones here. But again, can't read it. Looks like the commuter rail's moving. Kind of see it in the distance there. Just pulled into Pawtucket and is heading south towards Providence. Goes every day, several times a day from Boston to Providence. That's why Providence is a cheaper way to work in Boston, but you got to suffer through that commute. And it isn't cheap. I want to say it's like, you can get your monthly passes, it's cheaper then, but if you just buy one off, it's like $25 round trip, and then you still have to pay when you get there for the local trains. You're talking $30 round trip. I know when I go into Boston, I tend to drive in. It costs me about $12, and it's much more pleasant round trip, that is. This is a nice one. Half gone. From the 1760s, or born in the 1760s, died in the 1830s. A Green, members of the Green family. Timothy, maybe, and Lucy. Timothy's stuff is half gone there. So yeah, some trouble here with erosion, broken stones, general neglect. But, not too bad overall over here now. This is a bit newer section, and these stones are not as rough as the section we just came from, where, there's some good stones, but there's also some debris and worn, overly eroded stones. Little Reed family plot with an interesting iron gate around it. Let's see who this tall stone belongs to over here on the right. Some of these are worn. The Cummings family. Could be an old governor, though they don't have any governor's plaque here. But it's more Jenks. It says Moses Jenks. So someone named Cummings, maybe married into the Jenks family. Moses Cummings, late 1800s. Yeah, I've yet to see a governor's plaque, if one exists here. It's quite a large Civil War monument across the way. I guess we'll head over to that. Other than a few dog walkers, I've had the place to myself. Mary Paget. That's a 20th century grave, but it looks quite archaic. The Acela train is moving through now, not stopping in Pawtucket. Not on the map for the express, only the local. Let's see what we got here. There's quite a few interesting little hilltop sections coming up. So you can see that Civil War statue and a little gated area for Civil War soldiers. But I imagine everything around it is roughly from that time. Hezekiah. I can't read the last name. Luther, Hezekiah Luther, 1871. J. Davis is that large stone. Not sure who that is. James Davis. Give that a look up. Ballou. Joseph Ballou. A bit worn, but a veteran of some kind. Died 1865. Maybe right at the end of the Civil War. James Davis. Died 1898. We do get some homeless people sleeping in here. I've seen some abandoned clothes. I've seen tents in here before. Actually, it looks like I am coming upon a little encampment. Maybe somebody's sleeping over here. But it's kind of a cool spot because you can see a bit of a old rusty train bridge. Actually, it's just an overpass. Rusty car bridge over the train tracks, and then we're much closer to the factories now. This is quite a nice old tree, still alive. The buds are on it. It's nice to see. But yeah, somebody's over there sleeping. Oh. It's okay, we'll let him be. I don't need to see that area. It's quite a stone. I think I would do that too. If I certainly would do that. If I was homeless, I'd be looking for cemeteries. But I wouldn't set up a tent. I would just use, some kind of ground cover and set up a little coverage, but not a full-blown tent. You wouldn't want to be too conspicuous. And that person's trying to do that. They're sort of tucked behind a row of hedges and trees. Let them be. It's an interesting tree in front of us. I guess that one's probably dead. But yeah, I guess I missed the entrance here. That's okay. I don't need to walk inside this thing, but Has a very interesting plant holder there, pot, some kind of iron pot, and then this ring of graves, and all rung around the iron fence. There's a little entrance on the other side, and just your classic Civil War statue, which you can see in every New England town. That thing was boilerplate. They just produce those things by the thousands. They're all over the place. And there's a few. There's like 5 different kinds of motifs that you see. But this soldier just sort of standing there. It's a very common looking Civil War statue. And it says erected May 1802. Oh no, that can't be right. It must say 1882. By Tower Relief Corps. To the memory of unknown soldiers and sailors who fell in the Civil War. Something to that effect. So these are a lot of unknown soldiers, although, well, that monument is, but otherwise there are stones here. Take a look at a stone. Albert Strait. Get that pointed down a bit more. Mass infantry. So, some identifiable Civil War graves here. Train. The trains make a bit of noise, as they do. But not too bad. Some rough spots in here, but overall it's not too shabby. It could be a lot worse considering the lack of attention this place gets. So yeah, I would look up Jenks and look in Massachusetts. I want to say there's some kind of a place open to the public that showcases like some old working farm and some old industry. I know there's like some big gears there. I haven't been. I want to say it's in Saugus. Allen has this interesting Victorian 19th century kind of cast metal stone or metal marker, not a stone. Metal. And I think we're coming full circle here, so it's coming to the edge of this 19th century section. But I would say that, this, you gotta look into it. Obviously, this is at least an 18th century graveyard. But I would say it's possible some of the Jenks go back to the late 1600s, but I'm guessing mostly 1700s. And then certainly there's a ton of 19th century content here. Some Warrens, Clarissa Warren, Orlando Warren, died in 1853 it looks. Could be a Civil War vet. Oh no, too early, died too early. Not sure, those guys who were have veterans markers who were essentially adults long after the Revolution and died before the Civil War. And too young for the War of 1812. I'm not really sure what their military role would have been between, 1815 and 1850. Probably just cavalry members, people who were going out west and attacking Native Americans. Somebody had to do that back then. I mean, all this folklore about the American West, the cavalry, they focus on the towns, but all those soldiers under the direction of Andrew Jackson and all those kinds of presidents from the 1820s through the 40s, they had to be coming out of the old colonies. These were the fresh new states after the Revolution, the 13 colonies, and then the various states heading towards the Mississippi, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania's a colony. Let's see, Ohio, Illinois, Missouri. Missouri's getting a little far west already. I guess, West Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, all that kind of stuff. And certainly the original 13 colonies that were all well established by the early 1800s. So I guess that's what those veterans are doing, or where they're, what they were engaged in as veterans. Not 1812, not Civil War, but in between, all that cavalry stuff. So yeah, that's going to do it for the Mineral Springs Cemetery. So about a half mile north of the cemetery, and I thought it would be a good chance to take a look at the original Pawtucket train station, which, if you look up old postcards of this thing, it was quite cool. As you can see, it still goes over the tracks, and the trains still do run underneath it. I don't know what kind of hope there is for this place to be restored. It's quite gutted. There's been fires here, all kinds of stuff, but yet it still stands. And on the other side, let's just see what we can see, because it's in the parking lot of a CVS. Now, a CVS runs adjacent to it, but as you can see, it's the site of photography. Some folks here taking pictures like me. And it still has a beautiful front here. Entrance. Pawtucket Central Falls line here. Let's get some letter P and CF. CF on the left, P on the right, in the carved stone. And you can't really get in there. It's all boarded up. Let's just see actually what these notices have to say. So, some college students taking photos here. Notice to vacate, August 2023, 0 Barton Street. Properties here, 0 Clay Street, were previously ordered into a court-supervised mastership proceeding, blah, blah, blah. Has engaged in a contractor to vacate the properties, perform certain site work around the site. Prohibitions, any unauthorized individuals present must vacate. I might be talking to homeless folks in here. August 28, 2023. I mean, this is already 6 months ago. In case of emergencies. I don't know who was in here. They've been told to leave. And there's so much cool stuff here. Look at these chains. This is lion's mouth. Pouring chains out for the door. Not exactly sure how that worked, but the chains are still hanging there. There's a fire plug here that's all oxidized copper. Cool stone foundations. Interesting carving in the stone here. Everything about this is interesting. This is not a shoddy construction. That's why it's still standing after all of this neglect and decay. And there are videos of people inside this thing. I'm sure urban explorers, super determined, could get in here. But yeah, not knowing what's going to happen with this, I thought it's close enough. Let me just come and document it in its current state and see what's going on. Yeah, so here you can see the old original staircase. Pretty run down.